Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Marvelous Monday. I hope that you are well today. I'm excited today to join you with a special guest in the studio. And if you had an opportunity to check out the description, we are talking about how landlords can work with law enforcement, especially um, when it comes to landlord and tenant issues, right? And I know that for many of you who are property managers, your landlords, maybe you self manage your rental property. Sometimes things happen and the police must be called. And so today I have joining with me in the studio none other than my special guest, investigator Melvin. And we're just going to have a conversation today to discuss some things that I believe will be beneficial and helpful for landlords to understand, landlords and tenants. And so if you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the comment section. Thank you so much for tuning in. I normally go live at 7:30 p.m. I do thank you. I'm a little later today. I was having some technical difficulty due to the snow and the the snow, right, and the weather today. And so, but thank you for joining us today. If you have questions, you already know. If you've been watching me every week, if you have comments, if you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the comment section. If any information we share today, if you find it helpful, please do like as well as share this broadcast. And if you're watching the replay, let me say thank you so much. I'm Carissa Span, the landlord and tenant coach, and this is what I do each and every Monday. I bring information that I believe is beneficial for landlords and tenants as well as the entire rental community. And so today we're just having this conversation because things have come up with rental property, and a lot of landlords have questions on how to handle situations with their tenants. And then also, I know that tenants have inboxed me because they have questions on how to handle legal matters with their landlords. And so I have investigator Melvin with me today. He's going to answer any questions. That you have, where he can answer the questions. Obviously, the laws are going to be a little different just depending on the jurisdiction. So today we're going to cover pretty much just general or basic information about legal matters that sometimes come up between landlords and tenants. So at this time, I'm going to ask investigator Melvin if he could just come in and introduce himself and just share any information with you, our viewers, as you see fit.
All right, my name is Investigator Melvin. I've been in law enforcement now almost 25 years. I've worked numerous of apartment complexes during my time. I've dealt with it all, and I'm just here to answer whatever questions you may have in order to help you have a better outcome if you're having issues with your property.
Okay, thank you for that. So I know that for some of my viewers, especially those who are tuned in on my YouTube channel, some of those landlords I know for sure have had issues with tenants, and they didn't really know how to handle the situation. But most recently, I had a landlord who emailed me from my YouTube channel, and he had a question because his situation, it was so heartbreaking, but he had a tenant who broke the windows in the rental property that they were living in. It's a single family home in the DC metropolitan area. And so he asked me, he said, well, Carissa, my tenant keeps breaking the window and they won't allow me to come over to make repairs. And so when this landlord went to the rental property, a big argument came about, and the tenant began to yell at this landlord, began to cuss at the landlord, and it became a really big issue for this landlord. And so he expressed his concern. He said that he did not want to necessarily call the police because he wasn't sure if the police could intervene. And so what happened was the tenant was a female, and her significant other was there. And then a big old argument came about where now the boyfriend began to make threatening comments towards the landlords. So, in a situation like that, can you just give some advice on um, what landlords can do in that type of situation?
Sure. So in that type of situation, uh, one, my first question would be: is the boyfriend on a lease?
The boyfriend was not on the lease.
Okay, so boyfriend need to stand back and not make threats. Let the leasee handle the situation. The threats is I was just getting ready to ask: had the landlord made threats towards the tenant? So law enforcement can't get involved unless there is a crime being committed. The mere breaking of the windows, that's still civil, but you always want to make sure that um, it doesn't turn criminal. Okay, so if you have a tenant that's breaking windows, documentation, taking pictures, um, make sure that you put your notices out there in reference to them breaking the windows and you being reimbursed. I know it might not the actions of trying to seek civil retribute, get your money back, may or get them out may not be quick, depending on where you're at. But that's unfortunately the way that you have to go about it, civil way. I would make sure that I suggest that you not let it get you to the point where it's that you commit a crime yourself, and then because if then that means that your tenant may have you in a bind. So make sure if it's something like that and you think it's going to be like that, you may want to have a witness there for yourself to be able to say that just in case your tenant may say that you threaten them or some type of manner, that you have a witness. I don't care if they're recording with their cell phone, that's fine too. You have some kind of documentation that says that you didn't do whatever they may claim that you did.
Okay, and that's great. I heard a few things in that. You said to take pictures
Mm-hmm.
because documentation is everything. It's not what we know. It's not what you know. It's what you can prove. And so, obviously, having pictures, recording it, having a witness there, all of those things are definitely going to be important. And that's one of the things that I stress a lot. In the rental community, making sure that people understand that documentation beats conversation any day. And that's going to be so important. But in that situation where it wasn't necessarily a crime yet,
Mm-hmm.
could that landlord still have contacted the police because of what was being said by this boyfriend?
Oh, now the boyfriend, yes, he committed a crime. If he makes threats to do bodily harm to you, then yes, you can contact the police.
Okay.
Make sure it's documented. Get a report. If you could press charges against the boyfriend, do so. So
Okay.
that'd be nothing but more documentation that you were threatened in reference to that particular incident that happened with your windows and everything. That makes your case even better, even civilly.
Okay. Okay. And that's good. Now, although this didn't necessarily happen in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
but because I do have viewers who are tenants, and I know that things happen. Sometimes all landlords are not created equally. Some landlords are not as awesome as I am, right?
Yeah.
But in situations where you have landlords that are making threats towards tenants and things of that nature, um, can tenants call the police on a landlord if they feel that their life is threatened or they feel like their life is in danger?
Yes, I highly suggest it. If you have a landlord that's making threats to you, same thing. Document it, video it, call the police, file file charges. That is your right. You can do that anytime.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now I have another situation because in a lot of jurisdictions, you know that they are now legalizing marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a segment recently about a tenant smoking weed, and it had become a problem. So I've had landlords that reached out to me and they said, "Well, Carissa, I have a tenant who consistently smokes weed, um, can they call the police? And if so, what can the police do if they get a call about a tenant who's smoking weed at the property?
Ooh. All right, so that's a little bit of a hard one because, well, I can speak for DC. Weed has been legalized. So if you have a tenant that's smoking weed inside of their unit, uh, first of all, depending on what kind of, I guess, what kind of um, setup you have, whether that unit falls under, federal, if it's some type of property that most people fall underneath, like Section 8 or something like that. Normally, those federal properties like that, where they are being subsidized, it's against the law for them to smoke marijuana in their apartments. It is not a criminal offense, but it's definitely grounds for them to be evicted. You have to document it. You need to send notices, and then you need to go through the courts in order to get them out. Um, Now, if you feel or if you get information that drugs are being trafficked from that unit, then you can get law enforcement involved, and then we will then do an investigation in order to show that crime is being committed from that unit, and then we will handle it from there, and then you will be able to use that documentation in order to help with getting them evicted from the property.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I heard you say, and I want to go back to something that you said. You said that if the property is, if the tenant is in some sort of housing subsidy program, Section 8,
Yeah,
rapid rehousing, things of that nature. So if a tenant is under one of those subsidized housing programs, smoking weed at the property is illegal. Is that
yeah.
what I heard you say?
Yes, normally those properties fall under federal guidelines, and smoking marijuana is illegal. I mean, if you have a privately owned property, I would suggest, and I know Carissa can definitely, advise on that, to make sure that it's in your lease agreement in reference to smoking in the property. Make sure that it's documented in your lease. Make sure that they sign the lease. I would even have a little section where they initial right there, so they know. Um, so that way, when you go and document if they're violating, then you can move forward with whatever civil matter you need to.
And I thought that was important to revisit because I have a large um, population of viewers, and some of my viewers are tenants who are in some sort of housing subsidy program, such as Section 8, such as rapid rehousing, and they come under the umbrella of these federally funded programs. Um, and just recently, I had a landlord who reached out to me. The neighbor um, to the neighbor is calling the owner pretty much at least 2-3 times a week because the tenant is smoking. The smell, the odor of weed is coming through profusely at least 2-3 times a day. And so this landlord reached out to me to say, well, Carissa, what can I do? And so I found out that this tenant is in one of the housing programs. And so I did advise the landlord the same information that you just provided, that if this tenant is in a program, then smoking weed in the property, it is against the law. And so I did give advice on what they should do. And so if you are a tenant, if you know someone who is a tenant, and if you're in any housing program, it is against the law to smoke weed. I know that a lot of places are now legalizing weed, marijuana. They're saying that, oh well, marijuana is legal and all of that. And while that may be true, again, if you are a tenant, you know someone who is a tenant, if you're getting assistance, if the government, in other words, if the government is paying at least a penny of your rent, you as a tenant do not have a right to smoke marijuana in the rental property. And so, what I would advise in that situation to tenants, because I get it. This is a no judgment zone here. I don't smoke weed, but I do have relatives who do. And so, people, they will use it because it makes them feel good. It will take their pain away. I get it. I'm not here to judge anybody, but what I am saying to you is that if you are a tenant in a housing subsidy program, if you are smoking weed, it is against the law and you could be taken to court because it is a violation of that housing program that is paying your rent. So I do want to thank my landlord who sent in that question there. All right, so I just want to acknowledge of who are tuned in from YouTube. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you will be the first to know when I'm live and online. Okay, so I have another situation, Investigator Melvin, because I know that you are really knowledgeable when it comes to human trafficking. And when it comes to the rental community and rental property, so human trafficking is a big thing throughout the United States. Okay, throughout the pretty much throughout the world, human trafficking is something that has been an issue for a while. And I know that you and I we had a conversation about a situation at an apartment building, I believe it was, where there was some sort of not maybe not human trafficking, but there was a situation where there was some sexual things going on in the building. What can landlords do if they suspect that there is human trafficking, someone is running a prostitution ring at the rental property? Can you speak to that?
Sure. All right. So I did investigations in human trafficking for about 17 years of my career. Um, and during that time, I've ran into multiple situations where it's that apartments. Excuse me. Let me check this. Where properties were being used uh, as places to conduct prostitution activities. Okay. Um, so sometimes it can be human trafficking. Sometimes, depending on the person's situation, it can be a person that is doing it on their own, using their apartment in order to have a place for us so that they can prostitute from. It just depends on their situation. Um, now, if you get a notion or you get a complaint that it's possible prostitution going on inside your unit, you can contact law enforcement because that is a crime. We can get involved. We can start an investigation to confirm that there is or is not prostitution activities going on from that unit. Um, if there is, then we'll take it from there and um, try our best in order to effect arrest from there. And like I said, that documentation eventually becomes public, and then you can take that documentation. You can use your attorneys in order to seek eviction. Um, let's see. I have noticed that recently that a lot of women now that are in certain situations will do it on their own. It's safer for them because they're at home, they're in their own environment, um, and they will do it themselves. And sometimes you would notice an increase of traffic, male traffic, um, going in and out of the unit at all times of the night. So from there, you can contact if you're a tenant of another tenant, you can contact your management, advise them. And if you're a landlord or you're in management, contact law enforcement and we'll come out and we'll see what's going on and we'll do our best to try to help.
Okay, thank you for that. Hello, Mary Lou. Thank you so much for tuning in from the Philippines. If this is your first time, please let us know where you're watching from. We love to know where our viewers are tuned in from. So today we are talking about how landlords and tenants can effectively resolve legal matters. Okay, so Investigator Melvin, I had a landlord who wanted to know if um, here's a situation. So his tenant had some family who allegedly they came to visit. It was just supposed to be for the holidays, and the guests didn't leave. And so something happened, and the landlord went to the property and he wanted the guests to leave because they're not on a lease. They were creating a disturbance. So he asked me, should he call the police? And I told him that if he called the police, that he had to have really, a reason to call. But if this landlord wants to call the police, what could the police do? Like, could the police put the person out?
Police can do absolutely nothing at that point in time. That is a matter for the courts. You need to go through the landlord tenant courts in order to get the person that is not on the lease evicted. Once they are evicted from the property and they're still there, now you can get law enforcement. Normally, it would be the U.S. Marshals, depending on where you're at, or the Sheriff's Department that will come in and do the eviction.
Okay, so landlords. Hey, Pete, thank you so much for tuning in. So essentially, the police cannot put people out of
No,
the property.
no. If the person has been there over a certain amount of time and they have established residency in that unit, if the owner said, the leasing of the property says that they live there and they say they live there and they getting their mail there now, we cannot put them out just because of a situation as far as they're not supposed to be there according to the lease. You will have to go to landlord tenant court and deal with it that way.
Okay. All right. And so today I wanted to share information for landlords as well as tenants on how to resolve legal matters that come up. Things are happening, and people are finding themselves in tight spots. And because of that, they're desperate, and desperate times calls for desperate measures. I had a landlord client of mine who had a squatter in their rental property.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to squatters, one of the things that I always share is that squatters do have rights.
Yes.
But what can a landlord do if they find a squatter in their rental property? And before you answer that question, let me just explain what a squatter is. And please correct me if I'm wrong. A squatter is someone that does not have a lease, that did not enter the property with the landlord's consent. And so if a rental property owner has a squatter in there, what can a landlord do to get this person out of their property?
Once again, you gotta go through landlord tenant court in order to get them evicted from the property. Squatter rights, I'm not like 100% knowledgeable on squatters' rights, but I know they do have rights. And if they have came into your unit because it's a vacant unit and they have now established residence, they've been there for a long time and you didn't know they were there, then you have to do the same thing. You have to go through landlord tenant court in order to get them out.
Okay, thank you. I see your comment, Pete. You said same process. Absolutely. Because squatters do have rights.
Yeah.
And this is something that I have seen a lot in the rental community. I have managed property where squatters were there. And fortunately for me, I think I've done pretty good with squatters in handling the situation with that. So, Pete, you said unfortunately. What did you mean, unfortunately? Explain that, Pete. And so, if you are a landlord or if you are a tenant, someone who is, if you have any questions, please drop it in the comment section today. I have Investigator Melvin with me, and he's going to be answering as many questions as possible. But, Pete, I want you to explain, unfortunately. Hello, Pearline. Thank you so much for tuning in from Atlanta. All right. Comment here. You said squatters have rights here in Philly. However, they can be criminally charged for certain things. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. If it's this destruction, they broke through the door, um, and they destroyed the property on the inside. Yes, call us. We'll come out. We'll take a report. Now it's a crime. But I think this is where I need to would need to research as far as, okay, do we have to wait for the landlord court issue to be done before we can actually go after them criminally, or can we go after them criminally while they're still in the unit? Because I'm thinking that we will have to wait, okay? Because technically, if you got to go through landlord tenant court, then that's almost treating them like they live there, like they're a resident of that unit. So we probably will have to wait and go and do it after that. And then civilly as well, you'll be able to go after them for damages. I don't know how much that will work depending on their financial situation, but it's worth a try.
All right. So squatters do have rights. You said, okay, Pete, you explained it. You said, unfortunately, the squatters have rights. That
Mm-hmm.
is so true. And so today, I just wanted to share some information with the rental community. If you have comments or if you have questions, please go ahead and drop it in the comments section. I want to make sure that we are answering questions that you may have. If you want to share information, please do that. Um, Okay, you are quite welcome. This is what we are here for. And so I had another landlord who had a situation where she got complaints from it's an apartment building, and pretty much I think it's a 20 plus unit building.
Okay.
And this tenant is on the second floor. Tenants are complaining on the second floor. Tenants are complaining on the first floor about loud music that's being played. Um, Extremely late, all times of the night, early in the morning, over the weekend. And also, this same tenant who is responsible for the loud music playing, oftentimes they're putting chairs out front, playing music, things of that nature. What can landlords do in a situation such as that?
All right. So landlords, in those situations, um, okay, can law enforcement be called for loud noise? Yes, we can be called. So advise the tenants that are having issues, even yourself. If the tenants making notice to you that during the night um, that loud music is coming from another unit, um, document, document, advise the person in that unit that the music is too loud, people are complaining. Every time you get a complaint, you need a document. So that way you can go through landlord tenant courts and get them put out. Once again, it is not a crime, so we cannot make an arrest on that. We can only advise. So tenants can call at night. We can come through. We can knock on their door. If they open, great. We will advise them. If they don't open, then unfortunately we would just have to walk away because they didn't answer the door. But when those calls are made to law enforcement, that's documentation. You can go to that district, or you can request copies of reports to that unit for those issues and everything. So that way you can use that along with the documentation that you put together yourself, and to seek eviction if they won't stop.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Perlene said, "Hi, Officer plus rank Melvin."
What's up, Pearl?
Mhm. All right, so we are bringing this to a close. I wanted to share this information today because I received so many emails and complaints from landlords, as well as questions from tenants pertaining to legal matters that are taking place in the rental community. And I know that a lot of people now are still they're afraid and they're nervous of the COVID-19 virus and things that are going on. And so, as I stated before, desperate times are calling for desperate measures. People are looking for help. Um, and this is why I do what I do each and every week. I share information for landlords as well as tenants every Monday right here on this Facebook or this YouTube channel, because I know that sharing is caring. So many people are looking for answers. And so I may not have all of the answers to your questions, but I'm definitely here to help you. So if you have comments or if you have questions, please drop it in the comment section.
Can we have time for
Sure,
one more?
sure.
Okay, so um, I have a landlord right now that is dealing with a big issue, at her property. She has a 4 unit apartment building. She has a tenant in her building who is blind, but her tenant has a relative that lives there, and that relative has been bringing their friends and anybody in and out of the unit. There's been complaints of drug activity, drug sales. They had a homicide right on the front of the building, which 9 times out of 10 was related to that unit. Also, there was law enforcement activity going into that unit. Now it seems that that whole block is all 4 unit buildings on that block. They're all having the same problems, but the problem is with this landlord is that she was contacted by the OAG, which is the Office of Attorney General, and they advised her that her property was a nuisance property, and she needed to cure the situation, or she would be subject to fines or possibly uh, building ticket from her. She's done a few things in order to show that she's trying to combat the situation. She's and this if anybody's having this issue, these are things that I know people don't want to spend money, but you gotta spend money in order to make money, as they say. You might have to add in security measures. She added in cameras, cameras where it's that she could see from home. Um, and so she called to the station, and I talked to her, and I asked her if she mind if law enforcement had access to these cameras because she can view it from the internet, and so that way she can be helped. But also, I also advised that she needs to seek out help from might have to contact the official for that PSA, the lieutenant for that PSA, the captain for that PSA. Go as high as you can, within that district, asking for help. Also, I advised her that if other landlords on that block was having issues, then the ones that she knew that were complaining as well in reference to the problems that they're having at their own buildings, um, may want to get them together and seek help together. It's always good to have numbers. Um, and I know she was complaining, she was worried about her safety as well. So, but instead of continuing to let it happen, we have to do something. And law enforcement, you know this it's our job to keep you all safe, um and to help you as best as we can. So if anybody's having those type of issues, you got to start putting money, security doors, cameras, whatever, and then you work with law enforcement. Let them know, hey, listen, I'll give you access. They have people that investigate drugs, guns, all that stuff. So right now I'm working with her in order to have a coworker of mine that specializes in guns and drugs to help her by doing an investigation and seeing if we can help her by making an arrest. And that's documentation. Once again, documentation, document everything, call law enforcement so our documentation can help you anything you need. And if you're not getting the help that you need from law enforcement, then everybody has somebody over top of them.
That's good. I'm glad that you shared that because it reminded me of a community that I managed. And the property prior to me coming in was considered like on HUD's bad list. And the Office of Attorney General, HUD, landlords and property owners, that is the last thing that you want to happen. You don't want your property to be stamped as a nuisance property. You never want to be considered a fail or F property landlord, right? And so in this rental community, it was really bad. Um, there was lots of crime that was happening at the rental property. And so it just reminded me of the situation that I was dealing with. Um, and like you said, it is so important for landlords, property managers, and owners to work with law enforcement. And so one of the things that I did was I contacted the commander of that district to say, hey, listen, I have a problem, I have a situation. I was able to identify some problem tenants in a few of the apartments. And in this rental community was over 200 apartments that I managed. I was able to identify some bad seeds. I contacted the police commander. I did not stop. I sent emails. I went up the chain and I did not stop until I got a response. And so when I finally got the attention of the commander, I went as far as the captain. I contacted the mayor. I sent an email and I CC'd everybody to let them know, listen, I'm Carissa. I'm the manager here. This is the community that I'm having a problem with. I need officers available. I need to see officers on the property. I need to see officers walking the property. I am making myself available as the manager so that we can bring about a change in this rental community. And fortunately for me, because I will not stop until I get results, I was able to get results. And so the community, they saw me walk in, the officers, they came out. As a matter of fact, we had a town hall meeting. I had officials from HUD there on that call. I had the police commander there. We did have security cameras, like you said. We had security cameras, and so the company that monitors the cameras for the property, I had them there, and we discussed the problem. Okay, so this is the problem. What can we do collectively to resolve the issues, especially with the violence, especially with the guns, especially in communities with families and children live? That is, listen, for me, that's so important. And so if you're listening, if you know a landlord who are, if you know landlords who are in these type of situations, tell them that they must work with law enforcement. I know a lot of people don't like to talk to the police. Sometimes tenants may not cooperate or participate because there's this code on the street that uh, snitches get stitches. I get it. But at the end of the day, if there is a problem with crime, the only way to combat that is to work together, because together is better. So thank you so much for bringing that up. It did remind me of that situation and how I handled it. I was happy that I was able to get results. And sometimes people can't just stop after they send one email or make one call. Sometimes you have to, and here's something that I share. Here's a philosophy that I love. Usually it is the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. And so you have to continue to send the emails. Don't stop with the calls. Go up the chain, as Investigator Melvin said, go up the chain until you get a response. Because at the end of the day, if you are a property owner, if you're the property manager, if you're the housing provider, and if there is crime going on your property, you could get in trouble if you're not taking action. And so he shared some information. He shared advice on what owners can do. Get security cameras. Make sure that it is a cloud-based or web-based so that the cameras and the footage can be viewed off the property. Make sure that you're documenting and backing up your footage, and work with law enforcement if there is an issue. So thank you so much for sharing that, Investigator Melvin. So I think Pearline has a comment or a question. Do you give names in court cases if people assist? People are afraid.
Uh, well, I want to say this. If that person is, I guess it depends. Okay, how the contact is made with that person. So we do have people that we could consider CIs, which is confidential informants. And so if they're set up as a confidential informant, then no, we don't. Now, if you tell us that you do not, want to be, you want to be anonymous, then we will keep you anonymous. Um, Now, just know, by being anonymous, sometimes being anonymous, it may help get you there, but sometimes if somebody, let's say somebody is in their defense, they want to, um, their attorney's like, well, no, we want to talk to the person that made this complaint and everything, and if we cannot make this person available because the person is afraid. Could that hurt? It could. It could hurt. I guess it just depends on the judge and the situation. But you know, if you want to remain anonymous, I'm sure we will do our best to make that happen. And if I think before anything becomes, known, that an attorney would tell you, hey, listen, in order for us to get this thing pushed through, you know, we need you to get on the stand. And then at that time, it's your choice. And then from there, nobody's gonna pressure you, but they probably will ask if it's needed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that question, Perlene. And so are there any other last minute comments or questions that you have for us today? Because we recognize that we have gone over in time, but we definitely want to just bring about awareness in the rental community for landlords as well as tenants. So if there are any other last minute comments, any questions, remarks, or observations, we'll receive that at this time. Please make sure that you tune in each and every Monday at 7:30 p.m. I share information each week to help landlords as well as tenants. And so if you have questions, I am available. If I am not online, you can always email me. Let me give you my email address so that you can contact me. My email address is first name, last name, carissaspan@gmail.com. This is my email address. If ever you have any questions, landlord or tenant related, please email me. Let me know what your concern is, what issues you're having, and I will do my best to get the information that you need. Please also, when you email me, let me know which jurisdiction the rental property is in. So, as much information as I can get to look into your situation and follow up, the better. So that's my email address. If you want to find me online, you can look me up. Here is my website. I'm at landlordlife.com. So find me on Facebook. Please like my Facebook page. Please also find me on YouTube and subscribe to that YouTube channel. I shared a few weeks ago with my viewers. I'm excited that my next, I've created a landlord and tenant coaching curriculum, well, more for landlords. It's a 6-week curriculum where I give intense training and information for landlords for 6 consecutive weeks. It's called Landlord Master Strategies. And so if you are interested in working with me, that next date is January the 24th. That's the next session that's starting up. If you are interested, please inbox me. Please put in the chat box, Landlord Life. If you are a landlord, this is for landlords only. Okay. I'm always available to answer questions that you have. I do love and appreciate all of you. Thank you for my viewers who tune in each and every week. Thank you so much. Please go ahead, go onto the YouTube channel if you have not already done so, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am signing out for now. We're done. And we hope that something that was shared today was helpful. If you find any value, please share this information because sharing is caring. I will see you all next week.
Peace.